More proof that the Democratic Party hates white people. So I was listening to my man, Officer Tatum, doing a video on the Shedeur Sanders draft pick and how Shedeur fell to the 5th round. And he was quoting, he showed segments of Jamal Bowman. Remember Jamal Bowman, the guy who pulled the fire alarm when there's getting ready to be a vote in Congress? And I don't know why he's not in jail, but whatever. If that was a white guy, he'd be in jail. But Jamal Bowman and I think he's still in Congress, to be honest with you. I think he got beat in the primary. I can't remember, but I think he might still be in Congress. But he's literally a congressman, all right? And Jamal Bowman said about the draft pick, the only reason Shedeur Sanders was drafted so low is because of white boy stuff. I'm sick of the white boy stuff. Now, unfortunately, many of you whites will sit there and say, no, Jamal Bowman, you're wrong. You're wrong. Your premise is wrong. Let me show you why. And he'll say, and not that he'll say, because Cam Ward was the #1 draft pick and he's black. And that's just a stupid argument to make. When you don't argue with lunatics. You just don't. You just let lunatics be fester in their freaking insanity. And lunatics in this case is a blatant anti-white racist that is very representative of the Democratic Party as a whole. Because then what you'd be doing is you'd be granting Jamal Bowman correctness if next year the #1 draft pick in the NFL is not black. You see what I'm saying? So Jamal Bowman says the NFL's racist because of white boy games I'm sick of playing. And then you say, no. The #1 draft pick was Cam Ward. He's black. And then I just simply say, okay, what happens the next year when there's a white guy, for instance, the #1 draft pick? If the idea that the NFL is not racist because the #1 draft choice is black, inherently the next year when the #1 draft choice is white, that would grant the premise to begin with. You never do that. You never argue with racial idiots because you're never going to win. So what you do is you laugh. You say, man, you're a racist pig. No, I'm not racist. I know some of my best friends are white. That's what he'll say or something like that. No, I'm not racist. You let them you let them fester. That's how you win. Now remember, black men are a very small segment of the overall voting population. Very small segment. Black men, because of gerrymandering, and black women too, but basically we're talking black men because that's Jamal Bowman. Black men have been relegated to basically these racial congressional districts. So they can win by being lunatics, 100%. Jamal Bowman, that Hank Johnson, who said Guam's going to tip over. These guys can win by being lunatics because they're appealing to a very tiny segment of society that's been gerrymandered, all right? Because they said we have to have a certain amount of black representation. Let's throw all blacks in some congressional district, and as such, we'll get some black representation. Yes, but you'll never expand that, all right? Anyway, as such, so we got these idiots like these people. And, I guess, is there any on the right? Marjorie Taylor Greene. Maybe. I like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but okay. We'll go with it. She's not a racist. That's a fact. Anyway, so then you say, okay, so some of these people are insane. The Democratic Party, though, supports these people. They never get called an account. Hey, what do you think about the racism of Jamal Bowman? They never say that. And as such, silence equals acceptance, doesn't it? Isn't that what we've been told about racism? George Floyd, St. George Floyd, Michael Brown, Me Too. Silence equals acceptance, right? And so the fact that the Democrats are accepting these idiot behavior is very, very conducive, or very, very telling about that they're okay with it, bashing white men. Now, the interesting thing is white men are still a significantly higher percentage of the voting bloc. And white men are a hell of a lot more dispersed in congressional districts, all right? So if I'm a Democrat and Jamal Bowman's on his way out anyway, I'm pulling a Bill Clinton in a Sister Soldier moment saying we can't have these racial idiots representing our party because while they might win their small congressional districts, they're not going to expand the majorities that we need, or even they're not going to expand the electoral map for us because there are more white men voters. In fact, even white women, because white women tend to have white boys as children. There's more white voters than blacks, and more white voters are split across a more proportionate in terms of the overall electoral map than blacks. And as such, we need to be more inclusive if we want to get political power. We've got to appeal to white men as well as black men, as well as this and the other. Now, Republicans are doing exactly what they should. They're saying, we want black guys, we want white guys, we want everything. We want everything under our tent, our big tent, because we know if we're going to have a majority, we got to give a majority of the population, which includes not only some black guys, but we have to get the biggest majority of the population, which is still white voters. Even though the white voting majority is shrinking, in fact, probably by 2030 will be the biggest minority, but it'll still be a majority minority. We still have to appeal to whites. And as long as the Democrats keep going off on tangents by, say, bashing white people, they're inherently going to make political opponents, which is good. And that's what we want. We want the Democrats to be the anti-white party. We do. We want them to be that. Yes, they can give themselves a couple of congressional seats that are absolutely irrelevant. But at the end of the day, to make policy, you have to win seats that are diverse, moderately politically leaning, and the only way to do that is not to piss off a certain portion of the population that has a big voting vote, a big voting a big voting number, whatever it is. And that's why the Democrats are stupid. But the fact that they're not saying anything about stupid Jamal Bowman speaks volumes of how they accept that they hate white people. They do. White men, they don't really hate white women, because a lot of white women are liberal. Not the majority are not, but a significant portion. But they hate white men, and they just allowed themselves to continue to allow these idiots to keep going down this path. And I love it. So keep speaking, Jamal Bowman. We love it. All right, God bless.